All right, so today we're going to be taking a look at a woman that went undercover to investigate Pornhub. Um, if you're not familiar, I think that's the leading pornography platform in America today. Um, I think they do more traffic than the top 3 or 4 social media platforms combined. I could be wrong on that, but a while ago I did see, I believe that was the case. It might have included Facebook, Instagram, and either TikTok or one of the other platforms, but there's clearly an epidemic in this country with people watching pornography, and this platform clearly is profiting from, not only people who watch this explicit content, but they're also profiting off of the people that they essentially traffic into this lifestyle, which a lot of that, if you don't know, a lot of the women, especially that are involved in the pornography industry, are actually trafficked into it at a young age. They are coaxed into essentially doing, obscene things, and then eventually, as they get older, they are taking those behaviors and putting them on, camera. So, they might be, trafficked as a young child to do um, explicit things in private, and then eventually they're so comfortable with that uncomfortable environment of doing these obscene acts that eventually they get convinced or pressured into putting that content on camera, and now their lives are forever ruined, or at least stained by this, explicit content. So it's a major problem in this country today and in the world, where so many young people are, watching pornography, and I would even say, go as far to say, addicted to it, as though it's like another drug, to where it's negatively impacting their relationships and their lives. And this doesn't just go for young single men and women, but I believe this is also a big issue with married people too. It's definitely not good to do it as a single person, but it's definitely worse to do it as a married person, because you're violating your marital oath between your spouse and God. So it is a big problem today in the world, and it's the ease of it, access to it at our fingertips on these phones and, whatever other device you have, that is definitely contributing to the problem. But you have to have self-control. You definitely, if you're a parent, you have to safeguard your children from this type of content. Obviously, there are many different ways to block this type of content from being on devices if you give them a device. But believe it or not, you can actually block it on your own devices as well. Not to, stop you, because you could always undo it. But, sometimes if you search certain keywords, explicit content could come up in the search as well, because there's so many different links. And if there's certain words that the pornography industry is using, they can actually show up on your web browser as well, even though you weren't searching for that type of content. You're searching for something else that's similar or uses the same keywords. But you can actually block specific websites from even showing up, appearing in your search results, which is something that I do, just so that that type of content never makes it onto my browser. Um, and just, allows me to see, an article or a video or something for something that I'm specifically searching for, especially if it's for a podcast episode. But there are ways as adults that we could not only safeguard our children from this stuff, but safeguard ourselves from it too, so that it just doesn't even come into our path in life. And the Bible talks about like avoiding temptation as well, and that might be a good way to do that. Just take it, eliminate it from your life completely, block it out of all of your devices so that it doesn't even show up. And if you're a person that does struggle with this, that way it doesn't even become part of your thought process, because a lot of times the old saying of out of sight, out of mind is true. So that may be a nice, easy way for you to eliminate that problem from your life if you do struggle with this. But let's see what she has to say here.
That you're doing, and just how amazing your story is of somebody who saw what was happening in this larger realm of pornography, which we'll get into, Pornhub, ALO, their parent company, and didn't just think that's awful, but you like actually took action in a very serious way to help expose the problem that's going on and galvanize action. And your story is honestly like one of the most inspiring that I have heard. And as far as like people just responding to the awareness that was brought to this whole situation through the Trafficking Hub campaign. So I would love for you to just share with our audience and just I want to hear I know just a little bit, but I really want to hear like the full story of how you came into this space of essentially, fighting criminal porn. Um, and yeah, I want to hear the whole story.
Of course. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's overwhelming to look at all the work that Exodus Cry has done at raising awareness and getting trafficking issues into the mainstream space, getting people talking about it. That's not an easy thing to do. So thank you for having me. Yeah, my background, I've never investigated the online pornography industry before. This was a first for me. My original work background, actually, I grew up as an actress in Hollywood. I would do, little guest spots on kids shows, teen shows, like NCIS, stuff like that. And that's what I thought I wanted to do for the foreseeable future is I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to get bigger and bigger roles. Well, when I got into my 20s, I kind of realized the world didn't revolve around me and maybe my intentions of being an actress weren't pure, maybe a little bit self-centered. And I did see a lot of very inappropriate situations happen in Hollywood, in my work, in whatever acting classes, photo shoots involving children, sometimes involving myself, that at the time I didn't really have the wherewithal to realize how disgusting they were.
Mm.
And I think that planted the seed that made me care about sexual exploitation in general. Um, and then I would do little odd jobs for my dad, who is a private investigator and a lawyer. So he would like send me into businesses undercover and have me ask questions. And I think that's what made me have the confidence to go undercover into these situations. So after all that, I got into undercover journalism. I investigated things that, of course, you'll never see my face attached to them.
Right.
Um, but for this investigation, when we began investigating Pornhub at the beginning of this year, 2023, this is something I wanted my face on. And
That's such an important point that she's making right out of the gates is something that I mean, it's just known to be common knowledge that when women don't have a strong male influence in their life, especially a father, or at least at the bare minimum, a father figure, but a father especially, they tend to, not always, but sometimes they tend to go off the beaten path to, make mistakes, um, whether it's, dating a lot of guys and participating in, you know, um, different types of erotic behavior, or at the worst, getting into the porn industry. Like 9 out of 10 times, if you speak with a woman in the porn industry or on OnlyFans or any of these, lifestyle choices, strippers, whatever, everybody knows it's like an inside joke, but not really funny, is they have, daddy issues. And that is just a common knowledge. Women who tend to get into these type of lifestyle choices almost always have a bad relationship with their father, or they didn't have a father figure in their life. And one of the first things I took away from this is right away she said that she basically had a good relationship with her father. Her father was a lawyer and a private investigator and would, get her into helping him with the investigation process by sending her to, go out there and investigate things. And this kind of kicked off her career in journalism, investigative journalism especially. But it's a telltale sign because she saw things in that industry that she didn't like, and it probably she probably had that moral compass because she had a good relationship, at least as far as she said so far, with her father. So that's an important key factor to keep in mind, especially if you're a dad and you have a daughter. You got to have a good relationship with your daughters. Otherwise, you run the risk of them going down the wrong path in life and getting into sex work and getting into these different types of lifestyle choices that are going to tarnish their reputation and could possibly permanently scar and traumatize them. That they could spend their whole life trying to heal from that trauma, and that's a wasted life. So, fathers especially, you have to step up and make sure that you're being the best dad that you can be to your daughters. But I find that very interesting that right away she is saying that she saw red flags in that industry, in the entertainment industry, and things that she didn't like. And then she mentioned about how she had a good relationship with her dad and would work with him, and that kicked off her career in journalism. Um, that tells me that she probably uh, avoided that type of, lifestyle choices that many actors and actresses get into, where they go down dark paths in order to obtain high levels of fame and success and fortune. Um, they usually are willing to do things that are demoralizing in order to get to that next level. And a lot of times you can't go back from that because it's permanently out there, either on film or whatever. But the fact that she had this relationship with her dad probably saved her from going down that path and made her realize, you know what? Getting into this lifestyle choice of acting is probably a little selfish. Let me go and do investigative journalism because this is something that I can align with my father on. And, every woman, especially if you have a good relationship with your father, you can attest to this. You want to please your dad. You want to, um, do something that he's going to be proud of. You want that satisfaction. And, women can definitely attest to this. And if this is true, definitely put it in the comments. But it probably helped stop her from going down that wrong path and then instead getting onto the opposite side of now going and investigate in this lifestyle, where she helped maybe expose some dark secrets from it. But I don't really know. Let's see what she has to say.
Be inspired by the 2020 New York Times article, Nicholas Kristof, The Children of Pornhub, that made us decide, like, yes, we have to investigate Pornhub. We have to, and our premise was that they had publicly changed some of their policies to make it a safer platform, but how safe was it really? So we wanted to find out those details.
Take a moment just for people who maybe just are getting up to speed on a lot of the background and the premise of what you and I are familiar with, but they may not be familiar with. So the Nick Kristof article, I'll just give a little bit of backdrop to that to kind of update anyone who isn't familiar with that. We launched this campaign called Trafficking Hub, spearheaded by our then director of abolition, Lila Micklethwait. And really just the idea was just drawing attention to the fact that Pornhub was enabling and profiting from videos of real abuse and trafficking and other things, that they effectively had no moderation system to filter videos that were being uploaded. So there was a lot going on there on Pornhub that was being discovered that we were attempting to bring attention to. Well, the Washington Examiner published an op-ed by Lila, and the very next day, the BBC published an article of a survivor who had videos of their abuse featured on Pornhub. It was really interesting because the journalists had been working on that for a year. And so the timing just synced up in a way where it was like our article came out one day, and then the very next day, the BBC's article came out. Both articles went viral, and it really gave this wave of momentum to the Trafficking Hub campaign, which again is all about just the issues going on with Pornhub. So a few months after that, we launched this short animated video, and that goes viral.
Yeah.
Gets the attention of. He begins his own investigation, and over a number of months, gathers, puts together this article. That article comes out, The Children of Pornhub. It's one of, journalism now is so tabloid. I think we're seeing the death of journalism in a lot of ways. And this was a robust, substantive, in-depth article, really laying bare the issues at hand with the world's largest porn site, Pornhub, and featuring some of the people who've been victimized by it in a way that was so arresting. So I just wanted to give that little bit of context for your story for people who may or may not have heard of that. So that article was catalytic, and it came around 10 months into this like larger campaign that was going on. So, okay. So I just want to give a little bit of substance to that.
Talk about cosmic timing. I don't think I verbalized this to you, but if that article were never written, if the trafficking hub campaign was never done, without your work, I don't think I would have investigated this at all. I don't think it would have happened. I wouldn't have known. It wouldn't have been at the forefront for me to see it.
Well, what I love about your story is that, and I want you to get back to, giving us the narrative, because it's so inspiring to me. But is when an article like that comes out, I mean, it was, this whole revelation about Pornhub was really like earth shattering, because I think that in many ways the internet is still relatively new. It's been around for around 30 years. And there's Pornhub had really established and built up this reputation of being this pop culture porn chic brand. They were at New York Fashion Week. There's this idea of the normalization and of pornography in a way that made it like just completely chic, hip, cool, like
nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah. And so this revelation that there were videos of real abuse, trafficking, children being exploited, all these different forms of exploitation was like really earth-shattering. And the fact that it happened during the COVID lockdowns also added to the viral nature of the campaign because people were online. But all that being said, the point that I'm trying to get to is that that an article like this comes out, and I think for a lot of people, they go, man, that's awful. Maybe they stop watching porn for a week, and then go on about their lives, business as usual. And for you, this really was, in a way, like a burning bush moment. Like it really grabbed a hold of you in a way that, like, you made a conscious, intentional decision to follow through on the claims that were made in this article and find out for yourself what was going on. And it has added so much more fuel into the fire of exposing this criminal organization. So, okay. I just want to lay that context.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'll keep going.
Yeah, well, I have to give so much credit to the founder of Sound Investigations, which is the organization I work under. His name's Eric. He spearheaded this entire thing. He really was a huge part of the planning, everything we did. He self-funded it out of his savings account.
Wow.
Everything we've done so far has been paid for by him personally, that he just saved up over the years since 2020 to be able to do this. And we finally were able to get it done this year. And, we said, it's going to be a nonprofit, but before we go around asking people for money, we have to prove we're able to do this. We're able to actually record Pornhub, ALO, MindGeek, whatever employees admitting to illegal activities currently happening.
It's, in a way, it's so audacious to even attempt something like this. And so I started seeing these videos get dropped, and I was like, this is so badass. That's what I
Yeah.
thought. And like, it is that idea of like holding perpetrators accountable, speaking truth.
One other thing I want to add is it's nice to see a lot more investigative and undercover journalists going out there and doing what the news used to do, what the media used to do. Um, I think for a long time now, um, the mainstream media hasn't really done any type of deep undercover investigative journalism that wasn't done on purpose to try and either sway something politically or some sort of bigger agenda with corporate ties involved in order to, get some sort of reaction that would benefit somebody who, funded it. I think a lot of mainstream media today is very dead. It's very empty. And so what happens is some that is going to shift somewhere else. If if somebody's not fulfilling a demand, someone else will. Life doesn't just stop. Life doesn't just go. Uh, you know, the mainstream media won't cover this. Okay, I guess no more undercover reports. We can't find out what's going on, good or bad in organizations. We're just gonna have to accept that and move on, and just that's how we live life now. No, it doesn't work that way. If you're not fulfilling a demand, someone else will. That's what competition is all about in America. That's one of the reasons why America is so great too, is because the competitive nature of this country and the freedom to do so keeps everyone in check, including the big corporations, the politicians, everyone. If you're not fulfilling a demand, someone else will. And even out of their own pocket on their own dime, which is really nice to see because then you don't have that influence of maybe a corporation or somebody who wants to fund the project, but then have it swayed in a way where they, have a certain outcome, or they benefit somehow in the process. It's nice to see investigative journalists just go out there and actually do the real work. Go undercover, find out if something is or is not true, and then report on it unbiasedly. And we need more of that in this country. Project Veritas has done a great job with that, and we've all seen that on the news for the last, maybe a little less than 10 years now, where they've been going undercover and just exposing so much corruption in so many different organizations, whether it's, politicians or, government or corporations or whatever. They have been successful at exposing so much corruption in this world. And it's nice to see, but they can't be the only company. And I think actually James O'Keefe now broke off and he has his own media company, O'Keefe Media Group or something like that. But it's nice to see that there are other undercover reporters out there doing the work that needs to get done and going undercover and investigating things. Now, it's one thing to, you don't need to be exposing everybody's private business, but when you're doing something out there in um, the public has a right to know the truth behind that thing, whether you're a corporation or a politician or whatever. If you're making your life and your business and whatever public knowledge and putting it out there for the world has the right to peek behind the curtain and see what's actually going on so that they know they can make an honest decision of whether or not they want to be involved in that. Um, but it really is nice to see that these, especially these young people are so willing and courageous to go out there and go undercover, risk their, reputation, risk their safety, risk anything else that might come along with people who do not want the truth to get out there, and take that risk and get to the bottom of it and then expose and share to the world what they discovered. Either way, unbiasedly. We need more of that in this country. So if you're a young person, you're a student going to school for journalism or communications or whatever other degree. Number one, know that you don't need a degree to do that. And number two, when you do get out in the world, don't just look for the easy path. Don't just look for a job at some, big corporation, being a staff researcher or writer or whatever. We have enough of those in the world. Go out there and do the real work. Go out there and investigate things for real. Get to the bottom, get to the truth of things that actually matter to the people so that we can know what's really going on and peek behind the curtain. and not be just blindly following, what someone tells us. Show the world, do research, you know, unbiasedly go out there and just make discoveries and then share that with the world. Don't just get a degree and then look for some cushy job because, yeah, that might be the easier route, but the world needs more people who are acting independently and, actually getting the truth out there and doing real, genuine work, not just mindlessly being a cog in a machine. So just a word of advice for young people that are looking to get into media. And with the internet today, with all these online platforms, YouTube, Rumble, all the other social media platforms that allow video content, it is getting easier and easier, especially with a phone that has a microphone and a camera in it in your pocket at all times, and other devices and things that you can easily buy very cheaply on Amazon and whatever other platforms, websites. You can literally start your own media company with just you going out there and doing investigative reporting for a relatively inexpensive amount, maybe $1,000 or less, and start a career that way. You could even do it while you're in college, going to school for journalism and communications to get yourself, get your feet wet and get yourself prepared for what that life actually looks like versus what your teachers might tell you it should be. So just a word of advice for young people looking to get into that world. We need more people like this woman and less people that are just looking to get a degree and get a job and coast through life as like I said, a cog in a machine. But let's continue what she has to say.
A courageous person and advocating on behalf of those who are being overlooked and victimized and whose voices are being silenced and or their story is being turned into something else, like this weird documentary that was done about the trafficking campaign.
Literally
That,
just
like,
thinking about that.
just
Yeah.
so twisted.
Yeah.
And so sound investigations, your dad's a PI. I'm actually writing a screenplay right now where one of the main characters, one of the two main characters is a PI. So,
Oh, perfect.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And so you come into this like a little, it's kind of like in your family genes a bit.
Yeah.
And then you actually go on the journey. So tell us about that. What is that like of beginning that investigation?
Well, it was overwhelming learning about how wide and deep MindGeek slash ALO, whatever they're calling themselves these days, their roots just go so deep, and no one knows all of what they own. So it was overwhelming, and I mean, we really just used publicly available information to find out who worked there, and we did what we could to try to meet up with them and record them. It was probably a total of 4 or 5 months in the field, just going back and forth from the States to Montreal, where they're located, all the while pretending that I live in Canada when I'm in the field. So it was it took up pretty much my entire brain for 5 months, just pretending I was this other person.
Wow. And so as this is happening, so Eric, the founder of Sound Investigations, he's financing it. And so this is enabling you to actually take this time full time to go and dedicate yourself to meeting with key personnel inside of what was previously MindGeek and is now ALO.
That's correct. And the goal was to get them admitting to illegal activities, to not having really improved their ways since the supposed reform after Nicholas Kristof's article came out.
Because after that came out, they couldn't just say, oh, we didn't know, at that point, they pretty much, there was so much pressure, public pressure, they had to take action. So they said, we're going to make these modifications and we're going to make these adjustments. And
I believe what they did was they took down tons of videos. I mean, what, 1 million was it? Like around 1 million videos?
10 million.
Okay. So more, 10 million videos. They just deleted them. They, I believe, hired more outsourced content moderators so they could say they had more. And then they began requiring a user who wanted to upload to Pornhub to be verified. So they would take their ID and verify that they're a real person and that they were over 18. But well, this brings me to Undercover expose number 1, where a Pornhub employee of 11 years, who's actually the 7th person to ever be hired there, he told me that there's a loophole that is often abused in the upload system. So although the user needs to be ID verified, others don't in the video. And we're talking about pornographic videos, so there's probably other people in them. As well as if your face isn't in a pornographic video that you upload, how can you verify a face on an ID to someone's body parts? So he thought it was so much of a loophole, a liability, that he brought this to his higher ups, to the CLO and the CPO there. And he recorded this meeting just to have it on the record saying, hey, this is a problem that can get us in trouble, and I don't want it to ever be said that I didn't address this. But they told him to F off and shut up. So it's something they've swept under the rug. He admits that there's traffickers, rapists who use this loophole to upload abuse videos. And he says that it won't be addressed because it would hurt profits. So that was video number 1.
Wow. Did you intentionally seek out this particular person to meet with first, or was there a handful that you...
So I want people to comprehend that if you watch pornography and you're the type of person that, enjoys that content, if you're watching 2 people consensually have sex, that's already creepy, right? That would be like you see a married couple in their bedroom and they just happen to have the window open and you're peeping from outside their property line, but you can see inside their house and you're watching them have sex. You're actually violating the law. That's peeping. You could be arrested for that, and you could, either get a fine or jail time, whatever in that state is the law. But that alone is a crime and is disgusting. But for some reason, when it's online, it's considered not gross, not taboo to watch 2 strangers that you don't know have sex, and you're not part of that. What's worse is you also have people who, she just said, upload, videos of people who are maybe not in that moment being raped, but trafficked into that industry against their will, but they have no choice. So they're forced to have sex, which is rape. And possibly even some videos of people actually being raped on camera, but, it's, they can't do anything about it because, maybe they're being overpowered by these, men or whoever is putting them in that position. And then also it being filmed, maybe they're just overwhelmed. And so some people have fight or flight and they just, freeze up and they, don't know what to do. So they just go along with it. But imagine you're watching a strange couple you don't know have sex. That's already creepy. Now imagine you're watching somebody who is either trafficked into this industry against their will having sex, so technically being raped, or somebody who's actually being raped on camera. That is absolutely horrific, immoral, and it should make you, especially if you're a man, feel like horrible about yourself that you would even want to engage in that content. Watching that go on, that would be like watching somebody rape someone on the side of the street and you just stand there and watch it, or God forbid, even film it and not do anything to save or protect that person who's being sexually abused against their will. You should, you would be technically, you would kind of be complicit in that. You could, in certain states, face criminal charges for not doing anything about it. But you should feel like a really bad person to just stand by and watch that happen. So if that's the case in real life, and we get a little caught up in our screens thinking that there's a separation there, that something that you see on your screen is, real but not real because you can't physically touch it. It's not here. All five senses can't experience that. So it must not be totally real. But somehow that's okay behind a screen, but in real life, it would not be accepted. Your brain needs to learn to put those two together. Understand that what is not socially or morally correct in real life, the same rules apply for online. Don't let your brain separate the two and make you think that just because it's happening on a screen in a location that you don't know with people that you don't know, that it's not wrong or you have no affiliation to that. Just by watching it and engaging with it in that way, you are now affiliated with it. So if that person is doing that wrong thing and you're watching it, you're doing that wrong thing as well. Just keep in mind going forward that, the people making that content are bad and they're doing the wrong thing. But watching it is just as bad as well. You're complicit in that behavior. So keep that in mind going forward when you do think about watching pornography, that you really should not engage in that in any way. Don't support it, don't watch it. And you wouldn't just stand by and watch that happen in real life. Hopefully, if you're a decent person, you wouldn't. So why would you online?
Online that we wanted to meet with, but this person's name was Mike Farley. He is a product manager at Pornhub. So he's been there for a really long time, very senior position, large team works under him, deals with compliance, legal, trust and safety stuff. So this is all part of his wheelhouse that he has to deal with. And yeah, he was one of the people we wanted to meet with, but it really just, you never know who you're going to be able
Sure.
to,
Right.
so it worked out.
And so you sit down with him. Are you like, how's that conversation get? And I don't know if you're able to talk about that or
Yeah,
like.
I mean, it was surprisingly easy. I really think part of the advantage was this industry hadn't really seen undercover journalism before. And coupled with the fact that we were operating in Canada, where they're based out of. Canada, you don't see a lot of undercover journalism there. I just don't think people think about it. Um, there may be certain industries in the US where employees are told to be careful of undercover journalists, but in Canada and in the porn industry, I just don't think it's something they're aware of. So I think his guard was down. And when I was interested in what he did for work, he was very obliging.
When something like this is happening and you're in that moment, what are you thinking as you're hearing this stuff?
It's a weird zone to be in. There's adrenaline, there's nerves. There's me trying to remember all the questions I want to ask.
Right.
So when I am getting answers to the questions, real answers, not just, avoidant statements, I get excited. I know it sounds weird.
No, yeah,
But no, I don't get angry. I don't think, oh, you're a horrible person. No, in the moment, I'm just focused on what's my next question.
yeah,
So,
because the conversation's going somewhere. The information that you're after is
I'm achieving a goal.
yes,
I'm
yes.
achieving. I'm having my suspicions confirmed finally, and it's relief. So I'm excited. I want more. I want him to keep talking. Um, and yeah, that's what I try to focus on, even though it is very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, so he's sharing these things. Did you get a sense that there, I guess in my head, I would think that these people would be so embarrassed and ashamed of what they're participating in that there would be some reticence to just openly divulge this kind of incriminating information. What kind of impression did you get from these people as you're talking with them?
I would say, in general, all the employees I spoke to were just very matter of fact, very well, it's just the way the industry is, and it's not me doing it. I'm just an employee there. It's just my job, and I'm a tech guy. I do this thing. I think Mike Farley even said to me, "My job wouldn't be any different if it was videos of kittens." And I'm thinking, well, you wouldn't have to deal with all the compliance and legal stuff if you were publishing videos of kittens.
Right.
But I kept that part to myself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I really, they're a pig in the machine. They are not the machine themselves, I guess you could say. To be fair, most of these people I sat down with, they're very nice people. They're just your normal person. If you saw them walking down the street, you wouldn't think, huh, that guy looks like a basement dwelling Pornhub employee,
Right. So for their part, there's some kind of cognitive dissonance operating to keep them in these roles. Like there's an objective acknowledgement of kind of how the system operates, but for their part have removed themselves in a way. It's like, well, I'm just doing a certain function there, but don't really feel that like accountability to the larger system of what's going on.
Exactly. And I do think at least one of them, or a couple of them maybe, even celebrate the work they do. So on the flip side of, just a cognitive dissonance, they celebrate the work they do. They're very like sex work positive. They think porn is a positive thing that helps people embrace their sensuality, whatever. So I saw a couple different sides of the coin there.
Most kids have been exposed to pornography by age 13. Some are addicted even as young as 6. So how is pornography shaping the lives of impressionable children and adolescents? Our
So can you describe what you perceive to be the problem with Pornhub / ALO, their parent company, and how these, and maybe we can get into talking because you've done 5 videos.
Yes.
And are there more?
There's more. Yeah, there's going to be at least 2 more.
Okay.
If not
7,
several more.
So 7 plus
Yeah.
videos in total, exposing the ALO through their employees, and different people, 7 plus different people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you describe the problem that exists with Pornhub / ALO, and then how these videos are in a way corroborating the problem and helping to galvanize action to hold them accountable?
Absolutely. So, to summarize, the issues covered and confirmed in the videos are a lack of verification of age or consent for participants in pornographic videos uploaded to tube sites like Pornhub, as well as a lack of verification of age or consent on pornographic ads run on Pornhub and other affiliated platforms. Gosh, there's so much. The content moderation issue, employees being told to make a judgment call on whether someone's underage or not, on if they're wearing makeup or if they have a tattoo or if they have a piercing.
Like those things would be qualifiers that if they have a tattoo,
Then they're
maybe
probably
they're of
18.
age.
Yeah, so pass it through. And one content moderation employee told us they were using like makeup as a criteria. So, oh, this girl looks like she could be 16, she could be 18, we don't know. Well, she's wearing makeup, so just let it.
Crazy.
Yeah, like I was wearing makeup at 12,
Right. Right.
But We also have footage of an employee saying they purposefully cater their pornographic ads to pedophiles and young teens, as he put it. So lots of implications there. I believe that under like U.S. code, I forget, maybe like 1470 or something, you can't transfer obscene materials to a minor. So purposefully catering ads to appeal to young teens may cross those lines. I mean, we have so much. In a future video, we'll have an employee saying that they hope 12-year-olds watch their content to learn about sex. You know, people who work on the ads platform not suspending advertisers who upload videos of.
Yeah, so that's really sad to hear, but it's necessary to hear because parents, you need to know what's going on out there. She's saying that somebody that they spoke with when they were going undercover at Pornhub had just basically blatantly admitted to something that is likely a crime. And it could even be a federal crime, where they're purposely marketing their content to underage children to hopefully lure them into that lifestyle as either a consumer, a viewer, or as eventually a creator. That's not good. And, the company should be held accountable. The states in America, the government does have the right to regulate businesses. They can't interfere in commerce, and there's a lot of that does go on today, which is wrong. It's not constitutionally correct. But the states do have the right to regulate content, and the federal government as well. Regulate these companies' content and stuff like that. That's going on. They can put regulations in place that specifically stop all this. But for some reason, the politicians are not doing it, which is a huge red flag, especially for people that vote in their government. We have the right to decide if they're not going to follow, what we want and, regulate these types of businesses for doing this type of stuff, appealing to minors and trying to get them into that industry. Then, we should vote them out and vote somebody else in who will actually get it done. But besides that, parents, you really have to, pay attention to what your children are doing and be careful because there are people out there, companies, whatever, that are trying to groom your children in many different ways. But this is one of the most important ways because, this could lead to so many problems in their life. There are people who get into the porn industry and their life is ruined. They do pornography, they get out, they decide it's not for them, they're on drugs, they have, bad relationships with their family and friends because of that. They can't get a job. Maybe their kids find out and they have estranged relationships with their children, or their children continue that cycle and they get into it. There's a whole host of problems that goes into that lifestyle. But parents, you have to be more involved with your children. You have to be monitoring what they're doing with the devices that you give them. Are they going on these websites? Are these websites trying to, target and groom your children through ads and stuff like that? Can you block that type of stuff out? How can you do that? How can you take action to do that? But really be more involved in your children's lives to find out what type of stuff they are looking at online, what type of stuff their friends are looking at, what interests them, what interests their friends, what are their friends' parents saying. I think a big part of the problem too is that a lot of parents today, they've just become very, I'd say, lazy and give their children these devices as a way of having like a nanny or an additional parent help out, because the burden of being a parent can be very difficult for some people, especially if you're a single parent. But they turn to these devices to sort of babysit their children when they are too busy to, do that. to take care of their children. They hand them the device to keep them busy for a while. And when you do that, you're basically letting the device raise your child. You're letting the device and anything that's on it and anything that that child is looking at or getting into, watching, searching, um, influence your child. So that is going to be a part of their upbringing. You got to be more careful about what your children are looking at, and especially knowing that there are companies, big companies like Pornhub, that are making billions a year. You got to be careful because they are intentionally trying to groom children into this lifestyle. And that is, I mean, I think that would hold up in a court of law as a form of sex trafficking, specifically marketing ads to minors to try and either get them to become customers of pornography or to become the creators of pornography content. To me, I'm not a lawyer, but to me, I would look at that as at least being complicit in trafficking, or somehow being involved in it as an accomplice. But I would definitely say a court can look at that and say, this is suspect for purposely trying to traffic children in some fashion into this industry. So, we need to crack down on them. And the fact that they're openly trying to get them to do that and then would admit it to somebody who they don't really know that well when she was undercover. I don't know what the relationship she built with them was, but the fact that they would openly admit it, and that many members of the company, so it's clearly a company policy if the staff knows this as something that they're trying to do. That's a huge problem. And we as the people, if the government won't take care of this problem, we have to step up and take care of it. So I give her a lot of credit for going undercover and making these videos. It really is something that's very needed in this world today, especially because parents need to know what's going on out there so that they know how to handle it and deal with it. But parents, you got to be more involved in your children's lives. And, don't just let the schools raise them. Don't just let the, world raise your children. If you send your children to public school, go to the school, be a part of the school, join the PTA, become a member of the, board or whatever type of academic programs or after school programs that you can get involved in so that you could always make a presence there. Talk to the teachers, talk to the principal routinely, make sure you're involved in your children's curriculum. Don't just be a passive parent and let the world raise your children. But the same thing applies for these devices. Do not just let these devices raise your children. You have to make sure you're monitoring what these children are seeing. Your job is not to be your child's friend, it's to be their parent. And one of your roles as their parent is to protect them from the dangers of the world. And pornography is one of the worst dangers of the world. It leads to, lust, and lust is clearly a sin in the Bible. So, we're not gonna watch the full video. It's over an hour. I think we're about halfway through. If you do want to watch the full video, I think it's on this Exodus Cry channel on YouTube and probably some other platforms. If you want to watch her full video, check that out. But she said she released about 5 videos and she's going to do 2 more of, I believe, the undercover investigation of Pornhub. So I'm going to look for those, and we're probably going to do a follow-up video where we do look at 1 or 2 of those and just see what type of information she found out and then talk about it here. But comment in this comment section. What do you think about this video? What do you think about doing another video where we look at the undercover footage, or her investigation and see what, she came up with, and talk about that stuff. But that's it for today's video. Stay tuned for the next one. All right, thanks for watching that video. I just wanted to remind you, check out my children's book, Little Boy Full of Love. This is Little Boy Full of Love, a children's book that I wrote for my son. That's me on the back. And here is a little sneak peek into the book. It's a great book. Like I said, I wrote it for my son. It makes a wonderful gift if there's someone out there that that has a child, or if you have children and you want to, read it to them. It's really wholesome and nice and clean. It's got a great message, teaches a lot of wonderful life lessons for our children that any parent would honestly be proud to read their child. But it's available right now online on a lot of different platforms: Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, a whole host of online platforms. But more importantly to me, it's available in a lot of bookstores across the country, which is actually great to hear because, a lot of people might not know there are still many bookstores left in America, even after the internet age, and a lot of big corporations like Barnes & Noble buying up a lot of the smaller bookstores or putting them out of business. There are still a lot of independent small bookstores, and this book is in some of them. We're in about 15 or 16 different states right now across the country. So check out my Instagram page to see which bookstores are closest to you that carry the book, so that you can go support a local bookstore near you, a small business, because we really believe in that in this country. It's the backbone of America, and we want to continue that going. But check out the book in those bookstores. If there's not a bookstore near you and you want to get it online, check out our Amazon storefront. It's available on there, as well as a lot of other products that we personally use in our daily lives that we recommend. We have it all categorized for you. You can shop by category and find stuff that you specifically want to see. But this is all stuff that we use in our daily lives, stuff that we recommend, and a lot of great stuff on there. We're going to keep adding things as time goes on that we find, but check out the Amazon storefront, the book, and the apparel shop, and stay tuned for the next one. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that stuff that everybody always says. But it does help, allow me to continue to make more videos for you. And, comment in the comment section what type of stuff you want us to talk about. We're going to talk about a lot of different stuff on this platform. And all the information is going to be in the show notes, every episode, and also my bio. So check out all those things and stay tuned for the next episode.